Okay, I know I've thrown out a lot of acronyms, the VFDs, the PLCs. A lot of you in our industries will understand what them are. This would be a whole nother episode, in my opinion, of the acronyms or what we're talking about. But basically, we're saying that you're controlled by a computer and a variable frequency drives. It's telling you and operate. This doesn't make sense.
That was making sense. It's okay. I think, again, what we're trying to explain is in simple terms. These are control systems and drives that allow us to change airflows, change speeds of things that are operating so that they're running in the most efficient manner. And we don't want to get too much in the weeds of all these technical terms because, yikes, it's not fun.
Yes.
Welcome to the Fabricated Metals Podcast, powered by Process Metals Innovators, your trusted partner in smart, scalable fabrication. I'm your host, Dana Hansen, and in every episode, we explore the trends, tools, and technologies shaping the future of manufacturing. Whether it's sourcing smarter, improving lead times, or streamlining production, we share real-world insights to help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving industry. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to the Fabricated Metals Podcast. We are on episode 4 today, where we are going to be talking about automation. This episode explores how automation is redefining efficiency, precision, and quality at Process Metals Innovators. The goal is to make automation approachable and exciting, showing how PMI's adoption of automated processes isn't about replacing people, but about enhancing craftsmanship, consistency, and speed. Today, we have a special guest with us, Eric Lewis, who has been with PMI for 27 years. So since the beginning of time for us, he's our plant manager, and he's been involved with all of the automation that we've done throughout all of the years. And again, we have Conard, our president, with us as well to discuss. Thank you for joining in today. We're super excited to talk about all the wonderful automation that we've added into PMI, some of the new things that we've been looking at putting automation into, the places that it fits the best. And Eric will be the one to explain some of the things that he's been involved with from start to finish and how well they've worked for us. We've automated, of course, across multiple stages of steel manufacturing. And I guess let's dive right in.
Where do you want to start?
Where should we start?
Where did it begin?
Where did it begin? If we go all the way back to the beginning of time, do you guys remember the very first thing that we automated here?
Our ABB weld cell we bought to do the partially generate parts.
Could have been our first bases that we ran.
Bases, and I think we did some end caps and some certain other product line on there. Then we went from there to the cobalt, which would be, what would you call it? Easy.
The cobots, the higher robotics robots. Yeah, let's bounce back to the first welding robot.
The ABB.
Do you recall? I'm trying to recall why we decided to jump in and go with some automation in welding. Were we having some issues finding welders?
Welders were a complete issue. Equipment was, and the timing of lifting these heavy parts on and off and moving them around because they had to be manipulated. So we had to buy a robot that had a top and bottom table on it so we could spin it around and weld on the backside for motor mounts and some other stuff we had to put on that part. A lot of it is just for ergonomics of the employee, the repeatability of your welds that go across there. So the part at the end of the day looks the same, not welder A welds this big, you're supposed to put a 1/4 inch weld, and he's welding the 3/8, and the next one's welding a 1/2 inch, or one's barely doing a 1/4.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it uniform across the board. It's very appealing to the eye when you look at it because it all looks the same.
Well, you have good memory. So I recall some of those things. Again, what Eric touched on is the repetitive motion injury possibilities when we're getting the heavier parts. That was definitely a consideration. We had some high enough volume, I guess, that supported the initial investment. And we were running into many of the same issues that many folks run into. We can't find enough employees to get it done. So automation was one of the ways we could keep up with the volume. And then your other point was an excellent one, the fact that we learned very quickly that robots are highly consistent. If we do our setups properly, we have consistent parts, the welding is extremely consistent. Humans do a great job, but you're right, each one is unique in how they lay down a bead, whereas a robot is always the same. So that was a great first start for us. And then you mentioned we moved into the cobots, which can do different things. What did we deploy them to do? What was our next step in automation?
They're just high-speed setups that you could, the ABB is a programming, not a nightmare, but it takes a higher level individual to be able to program a 6-axis robot or one of that higher end, and then the table when to move it around. And you're flipping the table the same time as you're diving in the weld, and it's following it all the way around. Now you get down to a more of a simple part, a higher volume, say 10 to 100 or higher volume part that doesn't need a whole ABB robot, a higher one, and then we can just simply program that around with a touch of a button, build the fixture, and you're running repeatable parts again within, I'd say 7 to 15 minutes on an average setup on a part like that.
I remember heading out to the floor and talking to some employees that were using those, and they said that they were so cool because you just do it with your hand and it creates your program. And with a little iPad and the touch of a button, it can modify your program. So it's super easy. Of course, our younger kids like the technology. So using a little iPad and making a change was pretty simple.
Yep. They can do it all from their phones even. They can download the app. They can do it from there, or the teach dependent on the unit itself. So it's very interactive with them, and it falls in line, I guess, with video games and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And you can just, then it's easy going off the back. So you don't need a high paid, high skilled operator, welder to do that. And most welders that are truly into welding don't want to sit there and do repetitive work over and over again either. So they want to get down, okay, I got 10 widgets. I want to get these widgets done and I want to go to the next widget.
Yep, that makes sense.
They don't want to do thousands, and in that repeatability and that the ergonomics and wear and tear in your body, they shuffle that off onto the cobots and robots.
So the timeline is interesting. I think when we first received the ABB robot, that was probably 2005, 2006. The cobots, which were a whole different programming style, the universal robots, I think they were, or are.
Robotics.
Robotics,
Yep.
right? Those came to us 2010, later than that even yet, after lasers, I'm
I
thinking.
think it was later than that.
I would say in the last 8-10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
we
hard
got
to
10 some
remember.
years
Yes,
later.
Yes.
And that's how much that's changed. The programming styles or ability, you can learn it much quicker. And we think we found that now with our most sophisticated robots that we have on our back stamping line,
Yes.
which are, I don't recall the brand. Yasukawa?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't think we're saying that correct.
I may not be, but those are pick and place robots that are actually picking up blanks and moving them amongst dies in a series so that we can do high-speed stamping in different forms all in a row. That last version, and we'll get to our newest version here in a moment. There was how many? 4 robots deployed back to that line?
5 robots in the back line. We took 9 employees off of 3 presses, and we got it down to adding 5 robots. And we were down to about 2 employees, one being packaging, running the line, the other one just looking at quality and stacking it on a product or on the pallet, because we had to individually look at each part. It was a no-brainer after we got into it, but it did lead down to some other problems, I guess, or challenges for us, meaning maintenance. You need to have people go to the training, understand how to program, the sensors that go along with it, the different safety that falls in line with it to make sure your employees are safe, the motion sensors, all the presses are already guarded with light curtains and everything already, but still you have to integrate that in, especially when you're tying 3 lines together.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets complicated, but once you look at it, you see it all running. It's pretty
Neat.
cool. Yeah.
So definitely a learning curve.
Yeah.
What we had to do with safety and gating and this and that. So we make sure there wasn't an employee in with the robots, because the robots, at least these specific ones, aren't going to sense human touch. There are some that do that and will immediately stop. But these are fairly large industrial robots that we were using. And to your point, what a big opportunity we had again to get some employees repurposed in our plant.
100%.
Not be where they're lifting a 30-pound part all day, moving it from tool to tool, let the robot do the heavy lifting. And I know some of the guys that worked on that line previously then learned how to program and to do the maintenance technician side. That was neat to see how they basically grew up with the robots too. They had a new change in career and what they're doing, and they've been very helpful ever since, because we've added more automation, as that's been a goal of ours each year.
And on the floor in the beginning, there was a little talk, employees talking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do now? Every one of the employees found out that there was many other things they could do besides lifting them 30 plus pound parts.
Right.
Yep.
And we're thankful for it after they understood and got to work with them.
Yeah, it's not as scary as it sounds.
No.
I think some of the things we wanted to mention, the investment side of it, is significant, right? I think you're going to find usually companies are going to need some higher volume, something that's repetitive, that they can count on, that they have multiple year contracts possibly to be running in order to justify that expense, because robots certainly aren't inexpensive. So that's something that always needs to be considered. But we've been fortunate that we have some fairly large OEMs that we deal with consistent programs that we can count on the volume. And it really made sense to have the automation come in. Although today, I think the sense is that I get from many different companies, the high shortage of employees is forcing people into automation,
Absolutely it is.
even for lower volume.
I was at a company last week that said the same thing. They are struggling with people, and their engineers all day long are just strictly working on creating automation for their plant. I went out to the plant. I got to see it all. They're assembling all their parts where they used to have people there. It's the way that the world is going, unfortunately. And for us, wherever we find the best fit for with part volumes, we'll keep going with it too. It's been very successful for us. I know one thing about automation is that repeatability. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things we've done in our press line specifically for making sure that those parts that are coming out are to print and correct?
A lot of things you're adding now is now you move into sensors, because you don't have an individual placing that part in that tool.
Mhm.
And they can see between 3 points and everything's looking in there. But now you have vision systems that are visually looking at that part with a camera, picking it up at the same spot every time, placing it in that die at the same time. Not saying there isn't issues or things that happen. Sometimes they move a little bit, but then you have inline sensors in your dies that stop that from cycling. And if you get this timed out correctly, I'm not saying you're not going to have some issues going down the line of when you have day-to-day operations, but they're so minimal now that it's the guys go up to that computer screen and they're clicking, they look, they see, they're doing their checks and they're moving on. The sensors, the things you're adding in, the controls they're adding to the presses, adding the new ones, it's night and day from back to the old school. Honestly, it's so much easier. You can see problems. You can see hydraulic pressure, air pressure, what suction cup's not working, what suction cup is sucking too much. It can be an issue because then you're not dropping it correctly. When you're discharging that vacuum to drop the part, airlines, protecting them, all this stuff, because now you're moving around a different end of our tooling. It just keeps going. And then the employees I believe they're adapting faster than I thought they would be, especially some of the newer ones that we're putting on there, because people leave or want to try a different position in the plant and you have to retrain. And finding a training manager on our staff that it actually understands and can build a good training with the employees' input and our maintenance input and the manufacturer's input of building that training so it's bulletproof. And the only issues we have is when we skip a step.
Dana, what have you heard from customers? Are they asking us, are we automating?
Yes.
Do they have curiosities along
Yes.
that line?
Yes, every one of them has been asking if we're automating.
Why do you think they're asking that question?
I think because everyone's worried about people. I think no matter what customer I've gone to recently, they're all in the same boat. They cannot find enough people. So I think they're concerned for us as a supplier to them. How are we going to keep making their parts? Are we going to be able to find enough people to make their parts? My answer always is yes. If it makes sense and the volume is there and we can do it, we absolutely are going down that path for them too. They're doing it in their own plants. They're trying everything they can to automate too, because the people shortage is just a real thing for everybody.
And universal, right?
Yes.
And no matter what state we're operating in, folks are having labor shortages.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. And they want to make sure that their suppliers certainly can hold up their end of the bargain and create parts to meet demand.
Yes.
Perfect.
Maybe we want to touch base a little bit on our new project that's coming in, because that's like kind of a brand new thing for us.
Are we talking the 1,000-ton that we just put in?
Let's talk about the 1,000-ton, because
Yeah.
that kind of follows the stamping parts. And then we'll go into even the latest automation that we'll be delivering in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
So the linear transfers, at first we went with 6-axis robots and we thought we were dialed in. We knew this was it. We forgot about our little friends down south, TCR. They came in and seen what we did. They're they help us with press inspections and getting parts and keeping us up and going on our older equipment. But they came in and showed us this linear transfer system that's been around forever. And the price has probably it's not cheap, but it's gotten down to where a mid-sized company like say we are mid, that can afford this. And that's hands down, you got X and Y movement in, out, and sideways. All their components are built the same. It doesn't matter if you buy one that lifts 50 pounds or lifts 500 pounds. The components are all the same. So there's no getting parts if something breaks down, because everything's going to break down. and what you need to have. They partner up with you. They've ran these long enough that they know that you're going to need this brass widget on your shelf after 30,000 cycles. You need to just throw a number out there, but you need to replace these things. And it makes it very easier for the maintenance staff and the supporting staff to keep these running. But it's tying all these presses together with the controls and the technology. We're running 1, 2, 3, 4 presses off a mother press that's telling everything else to do: conveyors, robots, linear transfer die, or the stamping linear transfer system, conveyors all the way out to the exit conveyors there's 3 camera systems in there for the robots picking up. It's just, it's hard to explain it all.
We've seen all this operating on our plant, so we're attempting to describe it. And I think so that folks listening can keep up that haven't seen these systems. When Eric talks about a 6-axis robot, that's a robot that can move like a human.
Yes.
It can move parts up and down, sideways, all around. It's moving like a human being does from their torso. When we're talking a linear system, it's just that. It's moving in a straight line. It can go in to pick something up, pick it up, pull it out, or transfer it right or left.
Right.
It's not as dynamic as the 6-axis robots, but it tends to be faster. Right?
Yes.
And I think that's why we originally went to that system outside of our 6-axis robots, because we could get more parts per hour. And again, the name of the game right now is meeting high demand, and that opened capacity for us to do more work in those heavy presses, because not many people, including us, have more than 1 or 2 of those. And so you need to make sure you're running parts through them very quickly. So the linear system operates in that way, and that was a great advancement for us. It sped things up for sure. It still has the same level of high quality, consistency, all the things that we had come to expect from the other robots. And now, most recently, we've ordered some new automation. They'll do some different things for us on a completely new project. Why don't you explain some of the things that are happening in this automation cell?
Oh, haven't laid my eyes completely on it. I've seen the one that they had going, but in this carousel unit, there will be 2 automatic tapping heads that are, what do you call that, burr-free or extruded taps.
Yep.
So we don't have any, and they'll go around and they will completely install hinges. There's up to 3-4 parts that go into these. They stamp them, compress it. There'll be servo motors in there, loading cassettes, being like a magazine that the operators, all they have to do is load the magazine, feed out from the bottom, hit this carousel, and they'll go around and they'll spit out a finished part. And I think they're going to try to do about, is it 1,700?
We'll see.
We'll see.
It's going to be very interesting. We've never had automation like this before, where we've got basically multiple components, 3 components that end up being a single component where they're finally pressed together. And in between that time of putting those 3 pieces together in this automation, we're tapping holes. And we're tapping a lot of holes.
And this one has really high volume. So like, it's not something somebody wants to do one by one. There wouldn't be enough time in a week or a month to even get close to that volume. So this is the perfect spot to automate.
Absolutely. Tapping processes are tricky. You can certainly do them in die. That can become very expensive and have some troubles. This is a unique system. I can say that we're very interested to see how it works. We have great confidence that it'll work. But again, everyone knows until you see it happening, it's just a guess.
We'll get it to work.
We will get it to work. That's right. I like that attitude. So that's our latest bit of automation. And again, that's really there because you couldn't find enough people to do this work. It's extremely high volume, so it needs to be extremely fast and consistent. And I can tell you one part of automation that is different than human beings is robots like to work 60 minutes every hour.
Yes.
Us humans need a break once in a while. We need to go talk to somebody. We need to use the restroom, different things that happen. Robots don't seem to have those needs. So they keep going and going and going. As long as our maintenance keeps up with them and we have everything programmed right, we've had good experiences with them.
And if that's set up correctly with the cassettes, which we believe we have it correct up. So when they go to lunch, half-hour lunch, or they do a 15-minute break, or the shift change, there's usually a half hour between them. That line will stay continually running. It's set up and the cassettes are full and that's going by. But anybody that comes by, a manager, an area lead, or somebody come by, see your cassette's empty or getting close to, they can fill that up and reboot that. So it's very user-friendly that I can see.
Excellent. And again, just touching real quickly, safety is obviously our number 1 value here at PMI. We already talked about some of the guarding that's required, certain switches that sense things going wrong. All that's another part of the automation that has been into it from the very beginning. In fact, I think we have another piece of automation I just thought of, our laser welding.
Sitting right below us.
So that's coming in, and that's one of those pieces that we really had some pretty significant safety concerns on, because it's a whole different animal compared to other things that we do in our plant. A laser coming from a laser welder can cut through whatever you might point it at.
Anything.
And so you need to make sure that you have a surround, which we bought with that automation, to make sure that laser beam never can get outside of where it's supposed to be, because we've heard stories of people putting holes in their roof, things like that, if you're not paying attention where you're pointing this thing. So it's exciting and fun to see the different ways you can control automation and make sure it's safe, absolutely safe for all those users that you have that are, it's new to them as well.
Yes. And we started looking at laser welders probably 8 months ago. There's a local company that bought one. Thought it was very cool. It did amazing jobs. But at the aspect of that, just from that 6 months ago to where we are now with the technology that's developing daily, I just got off, met with another company here just before I came into here. It's night and day. It's ever evolving at the end of our automation line that's coming in. So this automation isn't the end of the world. Same way with our linear transfer. A new product comes in, you build a new end of arm tooling, and you're up and going. You just have to have perfect placement in the press. And everything that you're buying today can be repurposed at a different area, a different product line, in my opinion, in the right circumstances.
Right. I think that's a great transition, Eric, to Dana's work in the field with our customers. People listening to this might be thinking, how would I know if the parts that I'm getting from other suppliers lend themselves well to a possible automated solution? And I think one thing we know, if you're starting to get inconsistencies in the parts you receive, welds are different each time, bends are different each time, it's possible that automation might smooth those things out. It's always worth a cost review of the human side of getting a part completed versus the automated side of having that same part completed. And I think the nice thing here at PMI, we have enough unique and different pieces of automation that we can attempt to do different things with people's parts and see if we can show them a real value in moving towards a more automated process.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you've dealt with that, Dana, many times.
Yep, I sure have. So guys, how do you identify what processes should be automated next? And what does the automation design process look like from the beginning to end?
Simple question. I think anything high volume is something we need to take a look at for automation as far as the units per year that we're producing. Because again, we're always running up against labor shortages. So that's the first one that we really take a look at.
Safety.
Safety is important. Our guys are very safe in what they do as well. So I don't think it usually comes up in the beginning of an automation process of how safe can it be. That's usually near the end where we're making sure everything's running how we expect it. But that quality piece that you mentioned, Eric, earlier, where you get consistency.
Yes.
If there's a part that it's tough to weld, and so we know a robot can get in there and do things that a human arm cannot, and it can do it very consistently, very quickly, that again lends itself very well to automation.
Yes.
Does that somewhat answer that question?
Yeah, and I think too of a process that we have here that people, it was very repetitive and we were having some injuries. You could have injuries with people with their wrists or their arms repetitive over and over and over. And I think we've looked at things like that too and said, gosh, could we do this with a robot instead? And we've implemented them. And I think it's worked really well too. Yeah. Sometimes you don't find out until you get into it and you see challenges or see opportunities for improvement and you go with it.
And I think you mentioned the process of what do we do to really design up that automation piece. And I think we'd be honest, we're metal stamping and fabricating people. We're not robot people, although we've learned to use them pretty darn well. But we have partner companies that are all over the country because this is a booming industry. You mentioned TCR, a big shout out to those guys. They're amazing what they do with presses. There's some other companies, and I apologize, I don't have the names in front of me. APNT, they have the Twin Cities?
They are out of Georgia.
Out of Georgia. Okay. So a ways away, but a big partner of ours in making sure that we've designed the process as well as we can to make the perfect part. And I think anyone out there that's looking to get into automation, find a partner that has used automation because they've had that luxury of seeing it used in multiple different ways, different companies that they can give you the best solution possible versus from you trying to go A to Z. I wouldn't try to do that. That's
Don't
pretty tough.
reinvent the wheel.
No.
Get some help.
Yep.
So guys, how do humans and automation work together?
I don't think it's a question anymore. It's how do we not work together? To tell you the truth, the new stuff we have coming in, a lot of employees are excited about it. They want to see it. They want to be involved in it.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that separates us apart from a lot of large stampers or what the business we're in, is that I believe we're aggressively going. I get around to quite a few companies I get into yet. I think we're night and day above a lot of them. And some we're right there with. But if you're not looking at doing automation or trying to do this, or for ergonomics, for safety, for better profits, you're behind the eight ball. And the more you can look at that and intertwine these employees, send them to the training. Well, there's employee trainings, there's operator training, there's maintenance training. They all offer it. Some is a small cost, some is free, some is online, depending on who you're partnering up with and what company you go with. Send them to them employees, document that training and bring that back so you can repeat that training. And most will give you that fob of the training when you're going through, so you can give a good, true training to the employees and have them, they will grasp it. Some don't, don't get me wrong, but most will grab hold of that and will utilize that technology.
So one of the questions is, will humans ever become irrelevant for PMI?
No.
I would have to say no. Because we are a job shop here, we don't make our own things. There would never be a day that we wouldn't have employees here making parts. It just the quantities that we run and the volume of parts that we run range, the customer base ranges. Just that.
You look at the automation, the techs or your people who are doing that, they're becoming a demand too. Now, the more training you get into them, the more people get into them. Them opportunities are exploding out there in the industry that I'm seeing or hearing out there, is that it's just a transition of what employees have to do in their skill set, that where you need to develop them. And you treat an employee right, they're going to stay there and they're going to do things all the way through.
So would you say that there's any limitations here with automation? I know some of the customers that I've talked with have said that lead times can be quite long because everybody's looking into automation. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, I think so. I think when we put this system in, our last transfer system, it was 8 months, 12 months before everything was complete. It was a pretty significant timeline.
We're coming out of some stuff with the COVID, and there's multiple factors, I think, in some of that delays. But now I still think you're at a 12 to 16 week lead time is some of the best that we've seen coming out there. This welder, we bought a demo. Otherwise, we'd be out at 10 to 12 weeks.
Sure. That makes sense.
So we'll see.
Yeah,
I can see that more than I do. Right now, I'm getting good responses on parts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I think anyone, and Eric alluded to this early on, that starts this journey, that employees look at you at first going, I wonder what this is going to be like. And I wonder if I'm going to lose my job. And the reality is very quickly, they see how much these robots and this automation can help them take away the heavy lifting, take away the redundant motions that they were used to for a long time. And we get to re-energize in new and different projects throughout the plant. And I think they've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So it's always scary in the beginning. And I think for us, we knew we had to push ourselves over the edge and say, yep, let's get our first robot. Let's see how this goes with a real open mind. And it went very well. And I think we had good partners in the folks that we worked with in the beginning. So we could understand robotics, the maintenance of, the programming of, all those good things. And since then, we've been able to teach ourselves, like we have from the very beginning, how to do it even better. So I strongly recommend people push into this new area and give it a shot.
Yes. Yeah. So can you give us the main selling points when we're talking to a customer about working with PMI and partnering on automation?
On my side of it, I can tell you what I tell the employees, and maybe this will be beneficial for everything, is that when you go into a big box store and there is a box in the middle of the aisle that has, let's go, coffee makers in it. And they're all standing there. They all have the perfect boxing around, but you see a cracked one or crushed one or whatever else. You never grab that one, do you? Unless you're getting a discount on it.
Right.
Same aspect of automation. If you set that up correctly, welding for one, or even placement of parts and everything else, everything's the same. Everything's wrapped up the same. There's no quality individual come by and looks at that part and they look at 5 of them that they can see on top and see everything's perfect all the way along there. They don't need to spend a lot of time with that because it looks good. It shows up to the customer good. It's there. And that's what I tell the employee, the same thing, is that when you set these welders up, you set this automation up, it's perfect. One box isn't stacked one way and the operator gets one isn't stacked. Everything's the same. So they grab it the same. The tags are the same. Everything's the same. It makes our customers, I believe, easier for them to operate dealing with PMI.
Absolutely.
So consistency and quality we've seen as major benefits coming from automation. I think the fact that we've talked early on about the lack of resources and labor is going to become more and more serious. So any supplier's ability to keep up with demand is going to rely on automation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those two things, consistent quality, being able to provide demand that's needed, are two big parts and big reasons why you should look for a supplier that understands and utilizes automation.
Anything you put them on is that you need to add controls on there and then different sensors. So you have tonnage monitors. So you don't have an employee looking at that every part that's coming off now. You may have 5 dies lined up in one press with linear transfer, moving them all. Now you got to have a close eye on your tonnage. So if your tonnage starts to slip and you're running like, say, 120 tons, and all of a sudden you jump up to 135, that operator should know or starts to realize that, hey, something's wrong. I'm just starting to throw a burr, or I got a slug that pulled up, and they can, in a short amount of time, there is some fallout, don't get me wrong, but they can see that and address that situation. They know it's on the back left corner, so they know it's on these 2 dies. They should look. Yeah. So you have to look at all that when you're going down.
It's just not the automation. It's also the controls and the sensors, all of those things that we need.
Lighting, controls, all that has to be there. Conveyors. Yes.
How would you say PMI's automation compares to our competitors?
We've been at a lot of the many trade shows, things of that sort together. I think the majority of folks are getting into it if haven't already had some exposure, certainly for robotic welding. That's been pretty common out there. As far as the robotics surrounding presses, I don't see that or hear about that as often, but I believe it is happening more and more. And some of the very highly technical laser welding, there are surely some shops that are using that. The other newest automation that we have coming in, that's pretty state of the art, where we're combining different components and doing the in automation tapping, quite different. But if we were having a chance to go see a Tesla plant or a Subaru plant, I think we'd see lots of automation.
Yeah, that's a different line item on the budget, I believe.
It would be really fun to see how they're doing. But in our world, I don't think we're seeing it as often as we probably should be. And that's okay. If we're leading the pack, I'm all right with that.
We've gone so far automation into our compressor rooms, where we discharge the hot air in the summer and push the hot air through in the summer. And all that is 100% VFDs controlled by a PLC. So it goes by temperature. So it switches over, fan movers open up, and it pushes air one way or the other, depending on what it is. I think we won an award through the state of Wisconsin for that.
Yep. Environmental reasons.
Reasons.
If your VFDs control your PFCs or your PLCs, you're in good shape.
You're in good shape.
How's that sound for all you out there in podcast land? We just lost everyone listening right there.
But our lighting in our shop, we have our new addition. We put on a control, which we're still working on a little bit, some of the bugs to understand it, but that will turn on your lights at 5 o'clock in the morning, turn them off at 4:30 or whatever you have programmed. Pretty much. And that's a simple, there is so much simple automation you can put in to ease up on yourself, your employees, something you don't have to remember, and it's just automatic. It's all over.
Thank you all for listening into this podcast today. I know some of it might have went up over your head because some of it goes up over mine too. I know Eric has worked with all of the automation that has been brought into PMI from start to finish. Thank you, Eric, for joining us today and filling them in on all your expertise. I know the automation isn't going to end anytime soon. You'll be ready along for the ride. Again, like we've said, automation, it isn't just about removing the human element, which is not what we're doing. It's about empowering our team to do their best work with precision and pride. And that is who we are and who we will continue to be. Our next episode, we are actually going to talk about some prints and some things that we see on prints that actually could be costing your company money. So we see lots of different prints every single day. As we go through them, we see more and more things that we take back to our customers to fill them in on ways that we can help you. We can help you save some dollars. So stay tuned, and thanks for listening in today. Thanks for tuning in to the Fabricated Metals Podcast, brought to you by Process Metals Innovators. I'm Dana Hansen, and I hope today's conversation gave you new ideas and perspectives for building smarter. Be sure to follow the show and leave us a review if you found this helpful. And don't forget, you can download our free fabrication buyer's guide at pmillc.com/guide for expert tips on supplier selection, lead times, and avoiding common sourcing mistakes. Until next time, keep forging ahead with PMI.